Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. We're here in the classroom out of the office to cover what is not only one of the most significant poems in lyrical ballads, but one of the most significant poems in terms of English literature, especially with Romanticism. The long title is Lines Composed a Few Miles Above Tintern Abbey on Revisiting the Banks of the Wye During a Tour, July 13th, 1798. Now, one of the first things we're going to have to do is use the accepted title for this poem, which has been shortened to just Tintern Abbey. So if you ever have to refer to this poem, just refer to it as Tintern Abbey, use that as the title. If you're doing any reading, researching, and you see that's what it's referring to. On a quick personal note, when I was taking this class, English literature, as a student, and we covered Tintern Abbey, it was kind of a watershed moment for me personally. It seemed as if William Wordsworth, the author, was speaking to me through this poem. And it kind of, for me, it really scraped away a false way of looking at the world, and it gave me a whole new experience. And it was just one of the reasons why I ended up majoring in English and then eventually becoming an English teacher. So hopefully, if it's not this poem, maybe one of the poems that we cover in our little brief study of English literature will have a watershed moment for you, turn a light bulb on, help you to see the world in a new way. Now, so with Tintern Abbey, one thing that we have to remember is that just as with many of the works from the period authors, this is an example of the subjective. And also, another word for this is subjectivity. So what this refers to is, in the poem, when we see I, the I is William Wordsworth. It's the poet. And this is not really a big deal to us today because we're used to reading, thoughts of the author. But during this time, this was one of the watershed moments here. This is a big deal. So when we're going through, say for example, at the beginning here of the first stanza, 5 years have passed, 5 summers with the length of 5 long winters, and again I hear. So that I is not a character that William Wordsworth is using, but it is William Wordsworth himself. So that's something important to remember. Now, another thing with Tintern Abbey that we'll be exploring is something new that wasn't included in the period overview, and that is the Sublime. The Sublime. Now, what is the Sublime? What does it mean? What does it refer to? The Sublime means of such beauty and excellence to inspire awe and admiration. So in other words, these would be moments that would happen to people, right? Say, for example, they could be walking along, such as the case here with William Wordsworth, and then they would see something that would be so beautiful, so awesome, so grand, that it would create a lasting memory, right? And these lasting memories, as we're about to see, become transcendent moments. So that word we did have from the period overview. Right? Transcendent moments. What are transcendent moments? Those are moments, experiences that we all have that allow us to escape, right, from wherever we are. Now, transcendent moments are different than daydreaming, right? And you can sit there in class, like in math class, and and then kind of drift away, and then you come back. A lot of people think that that's, transcendent moments, but with transcendent moments, they're deeper and they're more meaningful. So it provides an escape from the present, right, where you travel into, it happens within your mind, and you reach a higher, elevated state of being, right? So that's transcendent, right? So what happened during this time is that it resulted into kind of a philosophical movement, a way of life that we call today transcendentalism. And then the transcendentalists were these group of people who did this. And for the transcendentalists and transcendentalism, the chief source of these moments was found in nature. Now, one thing that we're going to see is nature capitalized. And this is a hallmark for the Romantics, which is the elevation of nature to a source of spiritual inspiration akin to a deity. So before, people would go to church or read scripture to experience those moments, but now we have this group of people who are going out into nature and they're seeking transcendent moments, which is very different than what a lot of people do today. Is they'll go to the mountains or go for a walk in the woods to relax. Okay, that's not what was going on here. Sure, that happened to these people, but it's much more meaningful, much deeper experience that resulted in an elevation of their mind, right? They're seeking something sublime to yield a transcendental moment. So nature becomes the catalyst or the trigger for all this to happen, right? And all this is happening inside of William Wordsworth. And what is he doing? He wrote it down. This is an actual experience of William Wordsworth. This really happened to him. He's sharing this with us, right? So this is his subjective experience. Now, a really cool thing about the Romantics and people who lived during this time is that they would go on walking tours, right, for a diversion, something to do. And William Wordsworth was going on a walking tour, right, and he experienced this poem, right? This poem is an actual experience. And then what happened is he was going on his walking tour. They got to their destination, like a little inn at the end of the walking tour. And then William Wordsworth sat down and wrote this poem. He kept all of this poem in his head. Genius. Kept all of this poem in his head when he was walking and talking with people. And then when he sat down, the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, boom, from the preface to Lyrical Ballads, he wrote it down. Genius. So now, in these next set of lectures, what we're going to do is we're going to dive deeper, take a look within stanzas of Tintern Abbey.